Across China, there are places where architecture is no longer limited by the ground it stands on. Structures rise into the sky, disappear deep into mountains, cross over water, and redefine the way people move through urban space. What you are about to see is not defined by appearance alone, but by the ideas it challenges: gravity, space movement, and the boundary between nature and the artificial. These are not simply buildings, they are engineered experiences created to be entered, felt, and lived inside rather than observed from a distance. From suspended sky bridges linking towers like veins in the sky to architectural complexes operating as continuous circulation systems, each structure offers a different answer to the same question: how far can architecture go when it is no longer constrained by convention? And that is also when the journey truly begins, when you step inside these spaces. Once the holder of the Guinness World Record for the longest bridge over water, the Qingdao-Haiwan Bridge stretches across the vast expanse of Jiaozhou Bay like an act of defiance directed at the ocean itself. Before the bridge could take shape, engineers had to overcome a marine environment defined by frequent typhoons and dense coastal fog. To adapt to the immense span of open water, the bridge employs a massive T-shaped design and a three-dimensional interchange positioned in the middle of the sea, allowing vehicles to move between three zones beneath the surface of the bay. More than 10,000 support columns were drilled deep into the ocean floor to bear the full weight of the steel and concrete superstructure above. The result shortened the route by more than 19 miles and cut travel time between the two shores of the bay in half, turning an obstacle of open water into a straight line drawn with concrete and resolve. Beneath this bridge, the void is so deep that a 200-story skyscraper could stand in the canyon and its roof would still not reach the deck. The Beipanjiang Bridge holds the Guinness World Record as the highest bridge on Earth, suspended 1,853 feet above the canyon floor. At that altitude, clouds no longer drift overhead. They pass slowly beneath the wheels of vehicles, crossing above, as though the sky itself had been inverted. Constructing two colossal towers amid treacherous limestone mountains was an immense challenge, as powerful winds could sweep across the cliff faces at any moment without warning. To connect each section of the bridge in mid-air, engineers employed satellite positioning technology and enormous cranes operating with millimeter-level precision. This structure reduced a 5-hour mountain journey to a crossing that takes only minutes, a passage through the clouds that feels less like driving and more like the momentary suspension of gravity. From above, hundreds of white turbines stand amid violent waves like sentinels guarding the sea, and together they are turning the wind into the future. The Rudong Jiangsu offshore wind farm is the largest in Asia, a vast installation planted in the fierce waters of the Yellow Sea. Each turbine blade stretches nearly the length of a football field, and the towers themselves weigh thousands of tons anchored to weak seabed soil through foundations driven deep into hostile geological layers. Built to withstand the full force of super typhoons, each turbine, and its foundation weighing up to 4,500 tons, is driven through layers of challenging subsurface geology and firmly anchored into the shallow seabed. Every structure is engineered to remain stable under some of the harshest conditions the ocean can unleash. Together, the entire complex operates like a colossal machine, absorbing the energy of powerful ocean storms and transforming their immense force into electricity on an industrial scale. Every year, it generates 2.4 billion kilowatt-hours of clean power, enough to supply approximately 1.36 million homes. Have you ever driven a road where clouds drift past the windows like slow-moving ghosts, close enough to touch but too indifferent to notice you? The Ya'an to Xichang Expressway is known as China's corridor above the clouds, a feat of engineering stretching 143 miles through the towering mountains and plunging valleys of Sichuan province. On average, every mile of road lifts the elevation by by roughly 37 feet, carrying the route to a height of nearly 7,900 feet above sea level. The most complex section employs a dual spiral tunnel system combined with enormous elevated bridges, forcing vehicles to loop upward through the mountain in order to overcome gradients so steep that a straight road would be impossible. Engineers contended with earthquakes, landslides, and frost while driving bridge piers hundreds of feet into some of the most hostile terrain on the continent. Those brutal conditions transformed the expressway into a massive engineering laboratory, yielding 12 core patents that would later be applied to mountain mega-projects across the country. The road is not simply a route through the mountains. It is a blueprint for how humanity builds when the Earth says no. In Shanghai, a 5-star hotel descends into the earth rather than rising above it, and the deeper you go, the more extraordinary the world becomes. The Shimao Wonderland is the first hotel ever constructed inside an abandoned quarry, occupying a pit 289 feet deep and transforming what was once a scar on the landscape into a work of architecture that seems to belong to the future rather than the present. Instead of fighting gravity, the architects embraced the cliff walls and built an artificial waterfall that plunges directly into the lake at the bottom of the pit. The two lowest floors of the hotel sit entirely underwater, where guests can dine while fish swim past the glass on the other side. To operate this sealed subterranean environment, engineers solved complex challenges involving flood prevention and emergency evacuation deep below the surface. Sleeping at the bottom of a former quarry inside a space of extraordinary luxury makes Shimao Wonderland a place where raw nature and advanced technology meet at a depth most hotels would never dare to occupy. In the barren heart of the Gobi Desert, a tower rises from a circle of 12,000 mirrors and creates a second sun on the surface of the Earth. The Jiuquan Concentrated Solar Power Station is one of the leading solar thermal complexes in the world, harnessing the desert's abundant radiation to generate electricity for regions thousands of miles away. At the center of the installation, an enormous solar tower stands surrounded by mirrors, arranged in concentric rings, each one angled to focus sunlight onto a single point and generate immense heat. Unlike conventional solar panel systems, this facility uses molten salt to store thermal energy and continue producing electricity long after the sun has set. Stretching to the horizon, the fields of mirrors and solar panels also serve an unexpected secondary purpose, stabilizing the ground surface and slowing the advance of desertification across the surrounding terrain. At its narrowest point, this entire city is just 98 feet wide. Beyond that, there is nothing but sheer cliffs pressing in from both sides, leaving almost no room for a city to exist. Yet this is Yanjin, the narrowest city on Earth. Trapped between towering rock walls and a fast-flowing river, every building is forced into the sliver of land the canyon reluctantly provides. Every square foot matters. And when even that space disappears, the city refuses to stop growing. Instead, high-rise buildings are pushed to the very edge of the cliffs, their massive foundations supported by reinforced concrete piles driven deep into the riverbed below. It is engineering born not from ambition alone, but from necessity. With almost no flat ground to spare, railways and highways have no choice but to run shoulder to shoulder with homes or disappear entirely into tunnels carved through solid mountain. From above, the entire city resembles a ribbon stretched through the canyon, an urban landscape so improbable that it stands as one of the world's most remarkable examples of humanity adapting to terrain that was never meant to be inhabited. Attached to a vertical sandstone cliff, like a glass capsule from another century, the tallest outdoor elevator in the world lifts visitors from the valley floor to the cloud line in 88 seconds. The Bailong elevator sits at the heart of the Zhangjiajie scenic area, suspending a mechanical system weighing thousands of tons directly on a sheer quartz sandstone column. To achieve this, engineers drilled hundreds of feet into the rock core, concealing half the shaft inside the mountain, while the other half hangs exposed above the abyss in a transparent glass cabin. Three double-decker glass cabins operate simultaneously, carrying up to 4,000 visitors every hour. Suspended between a sheer cliff face and open sky, the system appears almost impossible, yet it is engineered with extraordinary precision. At the slightest sign of seismic activity, the entire cableway can automatically trigger an emergency evacuation. What once demanded hours of exhausting mountain climbing is now reduced to less than 90 seconds, lifting passengers hundreds of feet through open air in a breathtaking vertical ascent. Known as the roller coaster of the gods, this road does not cross the mountain. It spirals around it in three stacked loops suspended above empty space. The Tianlong Mountain Highway is a rare triple-level spiral tunnel system that hangs in mid-air above a deep ravine. Rather than boring through the rock, engineers bent the road into a colossal spring, allowing vehicles to gain more than 1,100 feet of elevation by rotating 360 degrees between cliff walls and canyon depths. To keep this enormous structure suspended high above the valley, the entire system is secured by more than 7,000 tons of high-strength steel, anchoring the bridge against the relentless forces of gravity and the mountains themselves. Its three stacked levels create a surreal visual effect, with vehicles continuously weaving between towering rock walls and open sky. Every curve is carefully engineered, allowing the road to conquer the mountain's extreme gradient without cutting through its solid core. This futuristic project was built to carry visitors past engineering that seems borrowed from science fiction and deliver them to an ancient Buddhist cave complex hidden in the cliffs above. This is not a portal to the future. It is a five-star hotel standing on the shore of Lake Taihu, and its reflection on the water has made it one of the most recognizable silhouettes in modern Chinese architecture. The Sheraton Wuzhen features a complete arch design that mirrors itself on the lake surface, earning it names like the Horseshoe Hotel and the Ring of Taihu. Inspired by the traditional stone bridges found in classical Chinese ink-wash paintings, architect Ma Yansong transformed a historical concept into a contemporary structure of extraordinary presence. Inside, the enormous arch interiors are finished in marble and crystal, and every guest room offers an unobstructed view across the vast lake beyond. More than simply a hotel, the Sheraton Huzhu has turned the skyline of Lake Taihu into a landmark visible from a remarkable distance, a circle of light and stone, resting on the water like a question the horizon has been asked but never answered. Miles of highway twisted into a concrete spiral and lifted into the air above one of the most densely populated cities on Earth. The Yan'an East Interchange is one of the largest-scale traffic projects ever constructed, transforming Shanghai's congested ground-level roadways into a multi-layered system of elevated expressways stacked 6 levels high. Enormous support columns are built to withstand continuous vibration, and the structure operates around the clock like a vast machine, channeling high-speed traffic through multiple layers of airspace. What sets it apart is a network of cameras, sensors, and AI-powered radar systems installed across the entire interchange. This infrastructure transforms the concrete structure into an intelligent network that monitors and regulates traffic flow in real time, making decisions faster than any human operator could manage. On a barren plateau, nearly 13,100 feet above sea level, 313 antennas stand in a perfect circle, stretching almost 2 miles in circumference. From the air, the entire structure looks less like a scientific instrument than a landing pad built for spacecraft. This is the Daocheng Solar Radio Telescope, an extraordinary machine that has transformed one of the most remote and inhospitable plateaus on Earth into a space weather warning station for the entire planet. Building it was a monumental challenge. The plateau is freezing dry and almost completely devoid of infrastructure, forcing engineers to transport, install, and synchronize hundreds of precision instruments under some of the harshest conditions imaginable. All 313 antennas are linked by fiber optic cables and synchronized by powerful computers, allowing them to operate as a single unified instrument. Together, they monitor coronal mass ejections and geomagnetic storms, providing early warnings that help protect satellites, communication networks, and power grids around the world. Have you ever felt what it is like to fly across the ocean at the speed of an aircraft during takeoff? The Fuzhou Coastal High-Speed Railway runs along China's shoreline at 218 miles per hour, a velocity so great that the boundary between land and sea dissolves into a single, blurred line outside the window. This is not merely a railway. It is an achievement in over-water engineering that has elevated transportation technology to a level that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. The most challenging sections involve 3 enormous sea-crossing bridges, where engineers had to contend with saltwater corrosion and violent tropical storms. Specialized steel alloys and advanced anti-corrosion technology keep the bridge spans stable over extended periods. In less than an hour, the line connects 3 major cities through a high-speed journey across the open sea. Inside this tower height stops feeling like a number. Before your mind can grasp its scale, you've already traveled more than 100 floors, lifted by one of the fastest elevators ever built. The Ping An Finance Center in Shenzhen carries no decorative spire, no antenna, no ornamental crown. It is a pure vertical structure rising from the city as a landmark of economic ambition expressed through restraint rather than embellishment. Its entire surface is wrapped in more than 3 million pounds of stainless steel designed to resist corrosion from salty coastal air and remain polished for centuries without surface maintenance. Natural light enters through high-performance glazing, while smart climate systems and rainwater collection reduce energy consumption by roughly 20% compared to towers of similar scale. Few people know that the original design called for a height of 660 meters, but the antenna was removed during construction to avoid disrupting air traffic, making it the tallest completed tower on Earth without a decorative tip. Half the year this ground is ice. The other half, it's a swamp. Somehow, it became the foundation of an extraordinary building. The Harbin Opera House curves like snowdrifts along its entire roofline, clad in reflective white aluminum that mirrors the winter light, as if the building and the season had reached an agreement about appearance. Inside, there are no fixed straight lines. Every walkway, staircase, and ceiling follows continuous curves that guide visitors naturally through the space without signage or instruction. The wooden walls of the auditorium were CNC cut, based on acoustic simulations, optimizing sound reflection and absorption across different zones with a precision that the ear registers, but the mind does not consciously detect. The curved glass facades along the building's edges were specially fabricated to prevent snow accumulation and endure extreme temperature swings between day and night. This is one of the few opera houses in the world constructed entirely through three-dimensional digital modeling, without a single traditional paper drawing produced during the design process. Millions of tons of ice, thousands of workers, months of construction, all for a city that survives only one winter. Every year in Harbin, more than 26 million cubic feet of ice are harvested from the Songhua River and transformed into a frozen metropolis unlike anywhere else on Earth. Towering over 150 feet high, its castles, palaces, and monuments stand for only a few months before melting back into the very river they came from. Building this city is an engineering spectacle of its own. Workers cut crystal-clear ice blocks up to 3 feet thick in temperatures colder than Antarctica, hauling slabs weighing hundreds of pounds across the frozen river before carving them into extraordinary structures. After sunset, the city becomes even more surreal. The transparent ice refracts colorful lights turning every street and tower into glowing architecture that seems to be sculpted from light itself. Each year, more than 18 million visitors come to experience its giant ice slides. Illuminated mazes, frozen palaces, and even hotels kept at -10 degrees Celsius. Yet perhaps the most remarkable sight isn't the city itself, but the people who call this place home. In Harbin, electric snow vehicles, nano-insulated clothing, and children learning to skate from an early age are simply part of everyday life in one of the coldest cities on Earth. It looks like a mistake, a wooden toy glued to the face of a cliff by someone who did not understand gravity. The hanging monastery sits suspended between open air and deep abyss, a structure that appears to defy every law the Earth insists upon. Despite housing roughly 40 interconnected rooms, the entire complex is anchored primarily by only 27 load-bearing pine beams driven directly into the rock face. At a height of about 164 feet above the valley floor, this multi-ton structure seems to float against the cliff, with its weight distributed across supports so slender they look decorative. Along corridors barely wide enough for a single person, every step produces dry, creaking sounds that force even the most fearless visitors to hold their breath. What deepens the unease is a detail most visitors never realize. The visible vertical pillars that appear to hold the monastery up are largely ornamental, placed to reassure the eye. The true load-bearing system is hidden deep inside the rock, invisible and silent, carrying everything above the abyss without ever being seen. Nobody can tell you exactly what lives here, but everyone who lives nearby agrees that there are places in this forest where you do not belong. Shenongjia lies in the mountainous western region of Hubei province, covering more than 1,200 square miles of dense and ancient woodland. It is the only region in China named after a forest, and it carries that distinction the way some places carry a warning. What makes Shenongjia unusual is not just its age or its scale, but the presence of phenomena that resist simple explanation. Researchers working deep within the forest have recorded an abnormally high concentration of naturally occurring albino animals, including white deer, white bears, white snakes, and white squirrels. The cause remains unclear, and the frequency with which these creatures appear defies the statistical norms found in any comparable ecosystem. The Chinese government strictly prohibits tourists and residents from entering the deepest primary forest zones. The restriction is not ceremonial. Multiple cases of people disappearing without leaving any trace have been documented, and the interior remains as impenetrable today as it was centuries ago. Within the local community, an old rule is still spoken aloud and still obeyed. See a white deer and turn back. See red mist and hold your breath. There is no room for hesitation here. Every decision matters, and every mistake has consequences. Guoliang Hanging Road is a tunnel roughly 3/4 of a mile long, carved directly through a sheer limestone cliff face. At 16 feet high and 13 feet wide, it allows vehicles to pass through the mountain itself, with one side open to the canyon in a series of rough-hewn windows that look straight out over the abyss. The road was built by hand at the cost of more than 4,000 hammers, approximately 13 tons of steel, and multiple human lives lost to snapped ropes and falling rock. There was no machinery, no modern equipment, only hands iron and the kind of desperation that builds what planning never would. Because the tunnel was carved without precision tools, the interior surface remains rough and sharp, grinding against tires and scraping vehicle frames with every passage. The windows, cut into the cliff wall for light, are not glazed openings, but raw holes punched through stone with no guardrails and no barriers between the road and the fall. Guoliang Hanging Road is not a monument to ambition. It is a scar left by necessity and one of the most dangerous passages ever created by human hands. It rises like an arrogant pyramid of ice and stone, worshipped by the faithful and feared by those who know what it has done. Mount Gongga is called the King of Mountains, a title earned not through reverence alone, but through a fatality rate that surpasses even Everest. By some estimates, for every 3 climbers who attempt the summit, 2 will never return. The mountain does not negotiate. Near vertical slopes approaching 80 degrees combine with glaciers scored by deep and hidden crevasses, forming a maze where a single misstep erases every possibility of survival. The terrain offers no flat ground, no shelter, no place to rest without risk. The weather is equally merciless. Clear blue sky can collapse into a blinding whiteout within minutes, accompanied by winds violent enough to strip away not just equipment, but the will to continue. The mountain changes faster than any climber can adapt. This cruelty was seared into memory in 1981 when a team of 12 highly experienced mountaineers from Hokkaido pushed toward the summit and were swallowed by the storm. The mountain kept them, as it has kept so many others, without explanation and without return. The greatest danger in these mountains is not the height. It is the moment when the sky and the ground become the same thing. The Kunlun Mountains have stood for millions of years, stretching more than 1,860 miles across Tibet and Xinjiang. Yet hidden within this immense wilderness is a place the locals refuse to enter, a place they call the Valley of Death, where they believe nothing that crosses its boundary ever returns. Weather in this region shifts within minutes, from scorching sunlight to violent thunderstorms. Lightning here does not behave as it does elsewhere. It strikes not only from above, but sweeps horizontally across the ground, as though the sky itself were reaching for whatever moves. Beneath the fine white snow lie sinkholes and pockets of liquid mud that can swallow people and livestock in seconds. When strong winds rise, snow is whipped into dense white curtains, erasing all sense of direction and leading the disoriented to walk unknowingly into nearby ravines. At elevations above 16,400 feet, oxygen falls to roughly half of sea level concentrations, and the body begins to fail in ways that feel like drowning on dry land. Acute pulmonary and cerebral edema arrive not with drama, but with a quiet fading, as though the mountain were dimming the lights. There is a place where the ground cannot be trusted, the air refuses to sustain you, and the cold is patient enough to outlast every mistake. People have entered this wilderness and simply vanished, leaving behind little more than unanswered questions. Wuzhen is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, often called the third pole of the planet, where living conditions rival those of the Arctic and Antarctic. No one lives here permanently. The region is known instead as a graveyard of the missing, a place where explorers, drivers, and even wildlife protection officers have entered and simply never been heard from again. Hidden beneath dry sand and thin ice lie marshes and wetlands capable of swallowing trucks, weighing dozens of tons within minutes. The ground that looks solid is not, and by the time a vehicle begins to sink, escape is already a question with no good answer. Oxygen levels hover at roughly half of what the human body expects at sea level, enough to trigger pulmonary or cerebral edema within hours. Even in midsummer, nighttime temperatures plunge far below freezing, and in winter, everything is locked beneath ice that does not intend to release what it holds. There is a lake that no longer exists, and a silence where it used to be that has swallowed everything sent to find it. Lop Nur lies on the eastern edge of the Taklamakan Desert, a dried basin once described as a place you can enter but never leave. Viewed from space, its shape resembles a giant human ear, earning it the name the Ears of Death of Earth. During the 20th century, Lop Nur served as China's secret nuclear testing ground. 45 detonations shook the basin over decades of military lockdown, and areas of radiation contamination that remain have never been fully disclosed to the public. The landscape still carries the invisible scars of what was done here. The terrain is lethal in ways that require no weapons. Sand can bury entire vehicle convoys overnight. Winds strong enough to erode metal sweep across the basin without warning. Tens of thousands of nearly identical mounds stretch in every direction, erasing all sense of orientation until the compass becomes as useless as memory. In summer, surface temperatures can exceed 158 degrees Fahrenheit, turning any mechanical failure into a death sentence. The disappearance of a massive lake within just a few decades transformed Lop Nur from an oasis of life into an extreme symbol of what the Earth can take back when it chooses. There was once a place where people believed the boundary between the human world and immortality could disappear. Perched atop a sea cliff for more than 9 centuries, Penglai Pavilion has long been regarded as the legendary gateway to the Isles of the Immortals. Built in the 11th century, it became a place where emperors, scholars, and pilgrims came not simply to admire the view, but to chase the ancient dream of eternal life. Its layered tiled roofs rise above a solid stone foundation, framing the horizon where sea and sky become one. Inside, celestial murals and ancient calligraphy preserve a world where myth and history have long existed side by side. Today, the pavilion is preserved with extraordinary precision. Light, humidity, and visitor access are carefully controlled, while meticulous restoration has protected not only its original architecture, but also the atmosphere that has made this place feel suspended between history and legend for more than 900 years. Behind a wall of rammed earth, stretching 4 miles long and rising 40 feet high, an entire city from the Ming and Qing dynasties continues to breathe. Pingyao is laid out in the shape of a turtle, a design chosen centuries ago for its symbolic association with longevity and protection. Within the walls, more than 4,000 traditional courtyard houses remain intact, forming a unified architectural space so consistent in style and proportion that walking through its streets feels less like visiting a preserved site and more like stepping backward through a door that was never fully closed. This was once a major financial center of Imperial China, the birthplace of the country's first bank drafts and early financial systems. The wealth and ambition of that era are written into every stone-paved street, each one roughly 13 feet wide and arranged in a planned grid that reflects the strict hierarchical principles of feudal city planning. Every year during the Lantern Festival, the old city comes alive with dragon dances, traditional crafts, and displays of light designed in ancient styles that cast the stone walls and wooden doorways in a warm, flickering glow. Thanks to strict preservation laws and limits on modern construction, Pingyao has maintained an authenticity that most heritage sites can only aspire to. Families still live here. The city is not a museum. It is a home that happens to be 900 years old. In the mountainous interior of Fujian province, enormous circular buildings rise from the earth like fortresses designed not for war, but for the survival of an entire clan. From the outside, it looks like an impenetrable fortress. Step through the gate and an entire village unfolds within its walls. Built from rammed earth stone and bamboo, Yongding Tulu rises up to 60 feet high with walls as thick as 6 feet all without a single steel beam. Round or square in form, each structure was designed to protect its inhabitants with one fortified entrance and no ground floor windows. Inside, hundreds of people live together around a central courtyard, creating a self-contained community where families trade traditions and daily life thrived under one roof. Built by the Hakka people, during centuries of conflict, the Tulu was more than a home. It was a fortress, a village, and a symbol of unity built to endure for generations. Today, it remains one of the world's finest examples of communal defensive architecture and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Stand beside the Yangtze River, and you're standing where a single battle changed the course of Chinese history. Spreading across more than 5 square miles beneath towering red cliffs, the ancient battlefield of Chibi marks the site where strategy, deception, and a perfectly timed shift in the wind turned one of the greatest naval battles of the Three Kingdoms into a defining moment for an empire. Today, reconstructed watchtowers, military camps, towering statues, and riverside pathways allow visitors to retrace the movements of legendary generals, revealing how the landscape itself became one of the most powerful weapons on the battlefield. History here is more than something to read about. Through battle reenactments, martial arts performances, and interactive military programs, Chibi transforms one of China's greatest legends into an experience you can walk through. The moment you arrive, the roads fade away, replaced by a maze of canals that have carried life trade and travelers for nearly 1,000 years. Known as China's first water town, Zhuhai is woven together by graceful stone bridges and whitewashed homes with black-tiled roofs, all facing the water as though the canals were the town's true streets. Among them, the iconic twin bridges have become the enduring symbol of canal life in China. Centuries-old residences such as Jiang Mansion and Shen House still preserve their original wooden halls, carved beams, and elegant interiors, offering a glimpse into the prosperous merchant families who once shaped the town. Glide through the canals by wooden boat, where the songs of local boatmen echo beneath ancient bridges, and past riverside homes unchanged for generations. Here it is not only the architecture that has survived, but a way of life kept alive through lantern-making, embroidery, and traditional crafts that continue to flourish today. The moment you step inside, the modern world begins to fade. Stone alleys replace busy streets, white walls and black-tiled roofs stretch into the distance, and every doorway seems to open into another century. For more than 600 years, Shidi and Hong Kong have preserved one of the finest collections of traditional Huizhou architecture in China. Built from wood, stone, and tile, their elegant residences unfold through carved corridors, quiet courtyards, ancient wells, and narrow lanes, creating villages that feel less designed than naturally grown from the surrounding mountains. For generations, Han families have preserved traditions shaped by ancestor worship and Confucian ideals. Wealth from the Ming dynasty salt and timber trade built not only grand homes but academies and a culture where knowledge became the greatest legacy. These are not open-air museums, frozen in time. They are living villages where history is woven into everyday life and where every step feels less like exploring the past than quietly becoming part of it. Before you ever enter the town, the river has already drawn its boundaries. Curving almost completely around Zhenyuan, it transforms the ancient settlement into what feels like a fortress shaped by nature itself. For centuries, this natural barrier protected the town while opening a vital trade route through the mountains. Traditional homes with white walls, dark tiled roofs, and wooden balconies climb the hillsides and line the riverbanks, joined by ancient gates, watchtowers, temples, and academies that reveal Zhenyuan's long history as both a military stronghold and a cultural center. Scattered throughout the town, centuries-old stele cliff inscriptions and ancestral temples preserve the stories of dynasties that came and went. Yet history here has never stood still. Families still live in ancestral homes, keeping traditional crafts such as fan-making, woodworking, dyeing, and blacksmithing alive from one generation to the next. Zhenyuan is more than an ancient town preserved for visitors. It is a place where the past has never stopped shaping the present. Nine miles of canals, more than 40 ancient stone bridges, and a way of life so closely tied to water that the town and the current are almost the same thing. Tongli ancient town has existed for more than 1,000 years, its wooden houses sitting right beside the canals, their curved tile roofs and inner courtyards reflecting a style of traditional architecture that was designed not to resist the water, but to live alongside it. In its prime, Tongli was an important hub for waterborne trade and a home to scholars and artisans whose work shaped the cultural identity of the region. During festivals, like the Peace Prayer Ceremony and the Lantern Floating Festival, the town fills with folk songs, traditional instruments, and boat performances carried out in ancient dress, each ritual connecting the present to a past that the water has never been allowed to wash away. Streets paved with blue stone curve along the canals and arched bridges span the water at intervals so regular they feel like the punctuation marks of a sentence the town has been speaking for 1,000 years. Thanks to strict preservation efforts, the original houses, stone bridges, and the traditional rhythms of daily life in Tongli have remained unchanged across centuries, a continuity so rare it feels less like preservation and more like a quiet act of defiance against the passage of time. Behind walls, built in the 14th century, a city still stands guard over the largest surviving archive of ancient calligraphy in China. The Xi'an City Wall stretches nearly 8 miles in a square-shaped design, rising 40 feet high and more than 40 feet thick with watchtowers, fortified gates, and a surrounding moat that together form one of the most complete examples of imperial military architecture still in existence. Built from fired brick and rammed earth, the wall was engineered to withstand siege and clearly reflects the strategic planning of an era when the survival of a city depended on the strength of what surrounded it. Behind these walls stands the forest of stone stelae, where more than 3,000 engraved stones have preserved Confucian classics, masterful calligraphy, and centuries of history since the 11th century. Every stone is a page that time has never been able to turn. Today, advanced preservation techniques protect both the ancient walls and the forest of stone, stelae ensuring that one preserves the memory of war while the other safeguards the wisdom of a civilization, all within the same historic ground. A building can be rebuilt, but the words that made it famous have never needed restoration. The Pavilion of Prince Teng is celebrated among the 3 great towers of ancient China, yet its enduring power comes not from its structure, but from a single piece of writing composed more than 1,000 years ago. Originally built in the 7th century by a Tang dynasty prince, the pavilion earned its immortality through a masterwork of prose written spontaneously by the poet Wang Bo during a banquet, a text so remarkable that it transformed a regional landmark into a permanent fixture of Chinese literary culture. The current 9-story structure stands over 160 feet tall, reconstructed in the traditional style with layered curved roofs, red lacquered pillars, and golden details that catch the light from the great river flowing nearby. Inside rooms are arranged in the manner of a royal residence, with a study, a grand hall, and exhibition spaces displaying calligraphy antiques and engraved classical texts. The surrounding grounds are designed with stone bridges, gardens, and observation decks that offer visitors a place to take in both scenery and heritage at the same pace. This pavilion is not merely an architectural achievement. It is a cultural landmark where nobility art and the written word converge into a single legacy that has outlasted every dynasty that witnessed its construction. As night falls, hundreds of lanterns awaken across the canals, and the reflections become so perfect that the town seems to exist twice, once above the water and once beneath it. For more than 13 centuries, Wuzhen has grown around its waterways, where wooden houses, stone bridges, and narrow canals still shape the rhythm of everyday life. Covered walkways, riverside docks, and quiet alleys connect every corner of the town, much as they did centuries ago. Life here has never become a performance for visitors. Families still live in traditional homes, draw water from old wells, cook over wood-fired stoves, and travel the canals by wooden boat, while weaving workshops, indigo dye houses, and rice wine breweries continue the crafts that have sustained the town for generations. Wuzhen has not survived by freezing itself in time. It has survived because time never convinced its people to leave. Eight brothers, 8 villages, and one wooden bridge that holds them all together. The Chengyang 8 villages are known for their famous covered wooden bridge called the Wind and Rain Bridge, a structure built entirely from timber using traditional joinery without a single nail. It serves as both a crossing and a gathering place, a piece of architecture that is simultaneously functional and ceremonial, practical and sacred. Wooden stilt houses rise on stone pillars along the hillsides and terraced fields, forming a landscape where human settlement and the natural world exist in a balance so careful it appears effortless. Each village has a central square, a meeting hall, a drum tower, and shared communal spaces arranged according to traditional design principles that have governed life here for generations. The communities are composed primarily of ethnic minorities who still practice antiphonal singing, handmade embroidery, traditional weddings, and rites of passage with the same devotion and detail their ancestors brought to these ceremonies centuries ago. According to local legend, the 8 villages were founded by 8 brothers of the same clan who chose to build separately but remain united, constructing the Wind and Rain Bridge as a physical symbol of their bond and their resilience. Today, the bridge is not only a historical landmark, but a living venue for rituals, ancestor parades, and folk song performances that fill the covered span with voices and music that carry across the water and into the surrounding hills. "2,000 years of history, and the streets still follow the same grid they were given at the beginning." Jingzhou Ancient City is a classical town whose layout of main and secondary streets was planned in an age when city design was considered an expression of cosmic order. The streets are paved with blue stone and lined with old houses, featuring white walls, black roofs, wooden doors, and finely carved archways that frame every entrance, as though each doorway were a passage between the present and something far older. Large structures, including the city gate courtyard houses and ancient temples, remain intact, continuing to serve as cultural and spiritual centers for a community that has never fully separated its daily life from its ceremonial one. Jingzhou was once a gathering place for scholars, artists, and leaders across multiple dynasties, and the Confucian identity that took root here still shapes the rhythms of local life. Traditional festivals, including calligraphy opening ceremonies, ancestor worship, and live calligraphy demonstrations, are held annually, connecting education, culture, and belief in a single public expression. Preservation is managed with strict discipline, using traditional materials and methods with clearly separated zones for residential life tourism and heritage protection to ensure that authenticity is not sacrificed for accessibility. This is one of the few places on Earth where you can still walk through a city exactly as its builders intended more than 2,000 years ago. Langzhong Ancient City preserves one of China's most complete classical urban layouts, where straight streets, fortified gates, watchtowers, temples, and traditional courtyard homes remain arranged almost exactly as they were first conceived. Every stone-paved lane reflects Confucian ideals of order, balance, and harmony. The city itself was designed as a reflection of society. Ancestral halls, temples, and family residences were carefully organized by status and tradition, while Confucian ceremonies, poetry gatherings, and family rituals continue to keep those values alive today. Legend tells of the astronomer Yuan Tiangong, who studied the heavens here and helped shape ancient Chinese calendar systems. His legacy, together with centuries-old stone inscriptions, traditional theaters, and masterful calligraphy, still fills the city with a spirit of scholarship that has endured for generations. Langzhong is more than an ancient city. It is a place where China's urban planning philosophy and history still exist exactly where they were meant to be. In a village where clan life, architecture, and Confucian ceremony have occupied the same ground since the Song dynasty, the distinction between heritage and daily routine has never been clearly drawn. Wuyuan Jiangwan stands as one of the rare ancient villages in China that fully preserves the traditional structures of clan-based society. Major families built homes, ancestral halls, and private schools within a unified village framework that grew through the Ming and Qing periods into a settlement where every building served both a practical and a ceremonial purpose. White walls, black tile roofs, stone, carved gates, and courtyard layouts reflect a social organization centered on the family as the fundamental unit of cultural life. The village also contains libraries, community halls, and towers that together form a balanced environment where daily activity and spiritual practice occupy the same physical space. Festivals such as ancestor worship, spring calligraphy rituals, and Chinese character contests are still held each year, drawing both descendants and visitors into ceremonies that preserve ancient rites while weaving in folk performances, music dance, and live calligraphy. Thanks to preservation policies focused on living heritage rather than static display, Jiangwan maintains both its traditional landscape and the active cultural rhythm of a community that has never stopped practicing what its founders believed. Every house, every wall, every archway built from the same green stone, as though the town and the mountain beneath it were carved from a single piece of earth. Qingyan ancient town is defined by its greenstone architecture, a rare consistency of material that gives the entire settlement a unified character found almost nowhere else in China. Formed in the 14th century, the town served as an important military base under the Ming dynasty, its strategic location along ancient trade routes connecting inland regions to border territories, making it a place where defense and commerce existed in constant and necessary tension. Inside the old walls, temples, guild halls, and ancient residences remain intact, preserving a town within walls layout that merges military function with residential life. Xinyan has long been home to multiple ethnic communities, including Han, Miao, and Yi, and the cultural richness of that diversity is visible through clothing festivals and traditional crafts like metalwork, pastry making, and embroidery. Stone stelae and surviving military relics still testify to the town's defensive history and provide valuable material for scholars studying the architecture of conflict. Today, Qingyan is preserved as a living heritage space where folk festivals, local cuisine, and the cultural traditions of a multi-ethnic community continue to thrive within walls that have not changed their shape in 600 years. Some people leave home to change their lives. In Heshun, they came back to change their hometown. Nestled among the mountains of Yunnan, Heshun was shaped by generations of overseas Chinese who returned with new ideas, new fortunes, and a determination to rebuild the place they had never stopped calling home. Clay brick houses, black-tiled roofs, stone courtyards, and timber halls blend seamlessly into the surrounding landscape, creating a village where architecture feels like a natural extension of the valley itself. Beyond its quiet streets lies a community built on more than prosperity. Returning merchants transformed their success into libraries, schools, and public spaces, believing that knowledge was the greatest gift they could leave behind. That spirit still lives on today. Traditions of honoring teachers, worshipping ancestors, and preserving family history remain deeply rooted, while stone steles and centuries-old genealogies continue to tell the story of a village built not only by those who stayed, but by those who always found their way home. Behind these walls lived a man so wealthy that his fortune was once said to rival the imperial treasury itself. Covering more than 600,000 square feet, Prince Gong's mansion is one of the grandest aristocratic estates ever built in imperial China. Originally home to the powerful official Hessian, before becoming a royal residence, the estate witnessed the final rise and decline of the Qing dynasty from behind its gates. More than 30 halls, courtyards, and pavilions unfold in perfect symmetry, where blue-tiled roofs, crimson pillars, and exquisitely carved wooden details reveal the extraordinary craftsmanship once reserved for the empire's highest elite. At its heart lies a classical garden of ponds, ancient rocks, winding paths, and hidden pavilions designed to recreate the tranquility of nature within the walls of the city. Legends of hidden tunnels and buried treasures have surrounded the mansion for generations, adding mystery to a place already steeped in political intrigue. Today, carefully preserved exhibitions, performances, and immersive tours invite visitors to step inside a world where imperial luxury, ambition, and history still linger behind every doorway. For more than 4 centuries, these shelves have protected one of China's greatest treasures, not gold, but knowledge. Built in the 16th century, Tianyi Pavilion is the oldest surviving private library in China. Its wooden halls and tranquil gardens reflect the Ming dynasty belief that learning and nature belong together. More than 7,000 rare books remain preserved here, protected by ingenious architecture, modern conservation, and the calm waters of Moon Lake which have drawn generations of scholars to read, write, and reflect. Tianyi Pavilion preserves more than ancient books. It preserves a civilization's devotion to knowledge. Legend says a Taoist sage ascended to the heavens from this very hill on the back of a yellow crane. For more than 1,000 years, the tower that bears its name has kept that story alive. Rising above the Yangtze River, the Yellow Crane Tower stands as one of China's most celebrated historic landmarks. Here, myth and history have become impossible to separate. What was once a strategic military lookout gradually became a symbol of transcendence, inspired by a legend that transformed a single hill into one of the country's most enduring cultural icons. Rebuilt in the traditional Qing dynasty style, the tower is crowned with 5 sweeping roofs, golden walls, and intricate crane motifs that echo the tale behind its name. Today, the surrounding gardens host cultural performances, exhibitions, and heritage events, ensuring that the legend of the Yellow Crane continues to be experienced, not simply remembered. Most ancient towns chose between culture and commerce. Nangsun chose both, and then chose to remain exactly as it was. Nangsun is one of the few Jiangnan water towns that once thrived in both intellectual and mercantile life and still preserves its original form today. Its architecture does not simply follow traditional patterns, but incorporates Western influence through 19th-century merchant villas, creating an urban landscape where East and West coexist in the same stone, the same roof line, the same quiet street. Along the old canal system, stone bridges and tiled roof corridors link rows of houses, supporting both water transport and protection from the weather. In narrow alleyways, visitors sometimes discover private libraries, where noble families preserved thousands of ancient books across generations, each collection a small and silent monument to the belief that knowledge is the only wealth that cannot be stolen. Nangsun avoids the noise and spectacle that tourism so often brings. Instead, it focuses on protecting its scenery, its sounds, and the unhurried rhythms of daily life that give the town its character. This carefully maintained quietness is precisely what draws those who seek not entertainment, but authenticity, a place where the ancient world has not been reconstructed, but simply never left. Along the banks of the Tuo River, wooden houses rise above the water on tall stone stilts, their balconies stretching so close to the current that the town seems to breathe with the river itself. For more than 13 centuries, Fenghuang ancient city has stood as a political, military, and cultural center in the mountains of southwestern China. Stone bridges, fortified gates, watchtowers, and traditional courtyard homes still preserve the layout and defensive design that once protected the town through centuries of conflict. Stone-paved streets weave between markets, temples, and riverside neighborhoods, while masked dances, antiphonal folk songs, silver craftsmanship, and brocade weaving continue to preserve the traditions of the ethnic communities that have called Fenghuang home for generations. Today, strict conservation rules require traditional wood and stone in every restoration, allowing the town to retain not only its historic architecture, but the living atmosphere that has defined it for more than 1,000 years. Where three rivers meet, a town was born that has spent more than 2,200 years watching the water carry the world past its doorstep. Shanghai ancient town sits at the confluence of three waterways, a geographic advantage that made it both a strategic military site and a major trading hub across many Chinese dynasties. Its ancient architecture remains remarkably preserved, with wooden houses topped by curved roofs, hand-laid stone alleys, and old bridges crossing the water in a style that belongs unmistakably to the Jiangnan tradition. Ancestral halls, community pavilions, and clan temples still maintain their original layouts, offering clear and unmediated insight into the spiritual and communal organization that once governed every aspect of daily life. Traditional culture continues through folk festivals, including lantern dances, dragon boat races, and classical opera performances that involve both residents and visitors in celebrations that have not changed their essential form in centuries. Despite the pressures of tourism, Shanghai remains committed to preservation. Traditional materials are used in every restoration, and strict construction regulations ensure that the town's character is protected not as an artifact, but as a living environment that still functions exactly as it was designed to function more than 2,000 years ago. Some places changed the course of history with armies. This one did it with ideas. Behind its ancient walls stand the Temple of Confucius, the Confucius family mansion, and the Cemetery of Confucius, three monumental complexes that have honored China's greatest philosopher for more than 2,000 years. Together, they preserve not only the places where his descendants lived and where he was laid to rest, but the ideas that shaped an entire civilization. Red wooden pillars, sweeping tiled roofs, broad stone courtyards, and centuries-old cypress trees create an atmosphere of quiet dignity, where every hall and carved inscription reflects the Confucian ideals of virtue, education, and filial devotion. Khufu is more than a historic city. It is the birthplace of a philosophy that continues to influence millions of people, proving that the most enduring monuments are not always built from stone, but from ideas.